Hello, this is Dr. Tom with part 1 of our exam strategy for the ME/PE exam that will go into a computer-based format in April 2020. This presentation is on which exam should you take and covers other important information about the new CBT format. So let's get started. The three mechanical PE exams are now to be offered only in a year-round computer-based CBT format starting in the April of 2020. This change in the testing method for the PE exam presents a new challenge for anyone taking the exam. I'll be talking about how to address some of these challenges in this video. NCES first introduced computer-based testing for the FE exam in January 2014. The chemical PE exam converted to the CBT format in 2018. The environmental PE exam converted in 2019. Mechanical now in 2020, and civil will follow last in 2023. The website there, link will take you to more information about that schedule. The exam is conducted by the National Council of Examiners for Engineering Surveying, what we call NCEES. They're located, they were located down in Clemson. Now I think they've moved to another location. About 4,000 mechanical engineers take the exam every year. It used to be in two definite dates, one in late October, one in mid to late April, and with about 1,000 of those repeat takers. It is the second exam towards licensure, the first exam being the FE exam. Some people can get a waiver for that, but cannot get a waiver for the PE. And it's referred to by the NCES as the part of the 3 E's of licensure. Education, you need to have a certain education, certain experience, and then passing these or getting credit to pass both of these exams. Each state has different rules for the education and experience, so check with your state. It is very variable across the 50 states there. Okay, there are 3 mechanical exams, machine design and materials. We refer to that as MDM, thermal and fluid systems, TFS, and HVAC and refrigeration. We'll talk more about which exam you should choose in a few minutes, but right now let's look at each of the exam formats here. With the CBT exams, you can take the exam now year-round, multiple locations on a date you schedule, and you can get your results in about 8 to 10 days. Now, usually if you took the exam in April, it might be June before you would find out your results. You now can also take the exam basically 3 times a year instead of just 2. The NCES has divided up the year into 4 three-month segments, January to March, April to June, July to September, and October to December, and you can take the exam in only once in any one of those, but you can take it three of those 4 each year. So you do get an extra time during each year to take the exam, and you are the one who decides when you do that. Okay, knowing in advance what the experience of taking a CBT exam will be like is an important consideration, because so many people, what keeps them from passing is the nervousness generated by the exam experience itself, and not necessarily their lack of understanding or ability to solve problems. One key change in the exam experience is that the CBT format uses what is called linear on the fly, LOFT is a term they like to use, testing, meaning that each examinee will get a different exam. They pull from a very large body of problems. So previously, when the NCS administered the pencil and paper PE exams, everyone in the country took the exact same exam from east to west in their particular discipline. Yeah, the questions changed from year to year, but everybody took the exact same exam at the same time. However, with the CBT exam, you might get a lot of questions in an area you're not very familiar with, and the person beside you, or one who comes in another day, gets just the right number of questions in the areas they're familiar with and very few in their weak areas. This sets up a much bigger, what we call, roll of the dice factor, and I have a minimum of high regard for that philosophy of testing, but that's the way it's going to be. It will, however, be the case for the CBT format. Knowing this in advance, you can prepare yourself for the possibility that you may get an unlucky roll, and realize if your first attempt trips you up, it doesn't mean you're not destined to pass. On another attempt, the dice might fall your way. You need to be prepared to run the gauntlet calmly. To familiarize yourself with that experience, I recommend that you watch the series of NCES YouTube videos that show what happens when from the time you arrive at a Pearson VUE testing center. That's where you will be taking the exam, and they're located all across the country. Many in a big city, it might have a half a dozen different locations. To take your exam until you finish, between ID checks, palm scans, making sure you're not bringing anything that's not allowed, the check-in procedure is a bit intimidating, so it's good to know what's coming. And these videos kind of give you a flavor for that arrival experience. There's always been rules about what you can and cannot bring into the PE exam, but the CBT format takes that to a new level. The downloadable NCES examinee guide contains a list of what items you are allowed to have during the exam. For the CBT exam, this list of items is very limited. Your official ID, one approved calculator without a cover. You can have a spare in the locker. We'll talk about the calculators later. A key to the locker, booklet and marker supplied by the Pearson VUE. You can have eyeglasses but without the case, a light sweater or jacket, and any approved medication that you might have to take during the exam. You'll be given a pad and a special pen to do all your calculations. It's sort of a graph paper grid, nice pad to understand, which will stay in the exam facility when you've completed the exam. And if you use up some, you can ask for additional pads and pens during the exam. That's it. Then there is a very long list of items not allowed. Please note that books and notes are included in the list of banned items. That means no outside references whatsoever. Your only reference during the exam is limited to the provided NCES PE Mechanical Reference Handbook PDF shown on your computer screen. You'll have a screen in which the exam's on one side and this searchable PDF on the other. Once you are escorted to your cubicle and testing console in a small testing room with your work pad and pen, it's time to take the exam while being carefully watched by a proctor over security cameras. The clock starts and will literally count down the seconds until your time is over. You can take breaks, but you must be careful not to take longer than the allotted time so as not to eat into your exam time. There are 80 total questions on the exam. In the formal pencil and paper, you worked 40 in the AM and 40 in the PM, and the time was set 4 hours. Here you still have 80 questions, but you're the one who decides when you make a break between the 40 and the 40, and that can be intimidating. CBT exams have a traditional multiple choice questions, just like they always have, which kind of fall into two types: quantitative problems that you kind of need to solve, and what referred to as, I call them NQQs, non-quantitative questions that you can just answer from reading it. There's not any really calculations involved. But the CBT exam will also have 4 additional question types. They're referred to by the NCS as AITs, alternate item types, and they include the following: multiple correct options, and it allows multiple correct answers, and it could be more than 4 possible. On the others, a typical multiple choice would only have 4, A, B, C, D. Also now have point and click, or drag and drop, or fill in the blank, and the examples of these are part of those series of videos on the CBT experience on the NCES website, which we strongly recommend that you watch very soon. Okay, time management is troublesome for all of us, especially on tests, particularly on a test as important as one's future as the PE exam. So it's worth taking a look at the challenge of time management on the CBT PE exam. The total time is 9 hours, and during the exam, the time you have remaining is shown on the screen and continues to count down as you work through the exam. That can be intimidating in itself. The 9 hours is sort of broken down as follows. You get a couple of minutes to read and sign the non-disclosure agreement. If you don't sign, of course, it's over. They escort you out of the building and it's all over. There's an 8 minutes for an online tutorial on how to navigate the exam screen and other items. And then you get 8 hours for the exam. You do get a 50-minute break for lunch, and you decide when you take that break, you will want to take it after sort of essentially 4 hours, where you hopefully have a chance to answer half of the 80 questions. If you don't take the break, you lose the 50 minutes. You don't gain that. It does not add to your time, but if you spend more than 50 minutes on your break, the exam time clock restarts after 50 minutes, and so it starts cranking down again. At the end of the 8 hours to the second, the exam is over. With the CBT format, you must be vigilant in your time management, because you have to decide when you take that break, and you have to make sure you allow enough time to get to all 80 questions. You do not want to not get to all of them and have some easy question be number 80. You just don't want to have that happen. Okay, with the CBT exam format, you are not allowed to take a single reference to the exam with you. None, not zero. Instead, you will be presented with a searchable PDF of the NCS reference handbook, sharing half of this 24-inch computer screen with the PE exam itself. The official NCS reference handbook for the mechanical CBT is available for download free from the NCS in PDF format. You'll need to create an NCS account, access account, to get to it. You need to do that anyway in order to register for the exam. The PE Mechanical Reference Handbook is just over 500 pages, like 522 or something at this point, but with about only 200 pages for the machine design. About 275 is associated for thermal and fluid systems, and the largest is about 385 pages for HVAC and refrigeration. The thought of getting to be familiar with hundreds of pages of information is daunting, to say the least. Also, having looked through this handbook since it's released, I found that while some of the material provided it is excellent and even a great improvement over other references, there are many serious gaps. And the handbook preface clearly states that while the handbook contains material that you may be helpful answering the questions of the exam, it quotes, "It does not contain all information required to answer every question. Theories, conversions, formulas, and definitions that examinees are expected to know have not been included." Let that sink in. It is clear that one of the keys to success on this exam format will be the familiarity with this handbook and the ability to quickly search and find what you need with ease. With that in mind, I have made that familiarization a priority in our new courses, giving you tools to facilitate your ability to use the reference handbook and lots of practice using it. Another key to success will be addressing the many gaps that exist in the reference handbook. You're going to need to rely on your memory more than ever with this exam. The old Dr. Tom method used the process of assembling the reference materials to improve retention of the information learned. The more effort our students put into preparing and organizing these references, the better they did on the exam. I have seen this consistently in many years helping engineers to pass the PE exam, as the CBT format essentially makes that effort obsolete. I've had to revise another method to help cement these concepts into your memory so that they are ready for your recall on the exam. The new method also requires a good deal of effort on your part, but will give you a distinct advantage on exam day. Okay, the three exams are divided into what is referred to as principles versus applications. This distribution is part of the official exam specifications, again available on the NCES website. Machine design and materials pretty much split evenly between principles and applications, 40 and 40. However, remember now you've got 80 questions, and you may get part of the principles in the first part and part of them in the second part. It's not like you'll get all principles to start with and then all applications after that. It's all sort of all mixed up. Thermal fluids, 32 on principles, and then it divides hydraulics, which really is fluids, and energy power, split those evenly, 24 each there. That adds up to 80. And then HVAC and refrigeration sort of swings towards applications with 48 of those and only 32 principles. Now you have 80 questions. At least the actual pass rate for everything should be 70%, but they don't publicize it. So what we assume is that it can't be any greater than 70. So our goal is 70% of 80, which is 56 points. Feel like if you can get 56 points or better, you should pass here, and that's sort of again our official goal, and has been for ever since we started doing this. Now, I'm probably the only one who makes this kind of a calculation. As we got 56 points, and we got a 20-week self-study program, or a Dr. Tom's course. We found 20 weeks sort of is the right number of weeks for this. Some people can take it longer, take more time if they want to, but 20 weeks is sort of the standard. So if you take that 56 points, divide by 20 weeks, what you basically got to do is learn enough material to get 2.8 points per week. And so when you multiply that times the time, you get 5 to 6. When you figure about 5 to 6 hours for each point to get each, that's a problem type there, you end up with about 14 to 17 hours per week prepared. We get testimonials all the time with people saying, I spend at least 20 hours a week studying for this exam, and I think that's what you'll find. You're much less than 10, and I don't think that's going to work towards your success. So it's going to take a commitment. Okay, choosing the right exam. Okay, and the way we're going to go about this is to think about three things: the nature of your job, the diversity of the topics for that particular exam, and the familiarity you have with the references in the NCES specifications associated with that exam. Now, before we do that, just to show the history of the pass rates, this is for the pencil and paper from April 2017 through April 2019. There, of course, will be one. The last pencil and paper will happen in late October of 2019. But as you can see, machine design and HVAC have fairly high pass rates, and thermal fluids has a lower one. So from that particular one, you would say, well, the last thing I want to do is choose thermal fluids. Not so. What happens is that through and I would like to feel that an exam strategy we've had before is to help people self-select that, yeah, they are machine design, and so therefore they do better on it, or they are a HVAC qualified, and so they do better on that, and everybody else should take the thermal fluids. And I'm going to make an argument there. The repeat takers are kind of even. There is a push in the NCS to give people only 3 chances, 3 strikes and you're out, but that's something each state has to decide. Some have, but others have not quite yet. So that's kind of even here. But the pass rate is a little bit deceptive here in your decision process. Okay, let's look at first, because we get the most questions about the HVAC and refrigeration exam. We don't have a course directed right at HVAC and refrigeration. The idea is that if someone is going to take that, they don't need our course for that. They need it for the other material. So they typically choose if they're going to take our course, they choose the thermal and fluid systems here. But in deciding this, the nature of the job of someone in HVAC, if you work in that and you're doing design, then that is your choice. If not, choose thermal and fluid systems. In your diversity of topics, it includes both HVAC and refrigeration and many of the thermal and fluid systems topics, heat transfer, etc. So that's part of it. But then I think what the key is if you have a copy of the ASHRAE manual, sort of the fundamentals book. Being a member of ASHRAE, I get those each year, so there's a whole row of those different things. If you have at least the fundamentals on your, when I like this, on your desk, got one in your car and one by your bed, then yeah, you're probably into the HVAC, and that's probably your choice. But if not, if you're not doing that, and you're not in that sort of a concentration on the design, then choose thermal fluids. It's the easiest to prepare for, as I will talk a little bit more about here shortly. And then the other sort of one that sort of a self-selection is the machine design and materials. Again, if you actively work in mechanical design and you do lots of different things in that design, then yep, that may be your choice. Unfortunately, a lot of folks pick the mechanical because they're kind of a little intimidated by the thermal fluids, but let me help you get over that. Okay, the diversity of topics. This is really where machine design is tough. It's got the most diversity, got lots of different things. You got wells and bolts and gears. I mean, just all kinds of things, and none of them are really related. They are, related to F equals MA and a few things like that. But other than that, lubrication, bearings, oh, geez, lots of things. So you've got to be doing mechanical design that includes a lot of that, and in correlation with the ASHRAE fundamentals. If you're very familiar with the Shigley's mechanical engineering design, it's sort of been the standard textbook for machine design for, gosh, I don't know how long. Shigley, I guess, published the first one in the 50s, and now they just call it his book, Mechanical Engineering Design. If, like the HVAC fundamentals, you've got one on your desk, one in your car, one by your bed, then yeah, you're probably into machine design there. But if not, choose the thermal fluids exam. Okay. So, speaking of thermal and fluids, obviously, if your job is associated, you're in thermal fluid, you're working on power plants or things like that, then surely that's going to be your choice there. It has the least diversity of different topics, or at least the way you solve them. Mostly you're looking at heat transfer, so it's sort of like Q dot is M dot delta H enthalpy, and that's the case for the heat going into the boiler, the work coming out of the turbine, the heat coming out of the condenser, the work going into the pumps. All of that is M dot delta H, sort of a thing. So all you got to do is worry about, are you got a real substance like steam or freon, or do you have an ideal gas like air? I mean, I can write down what you're supposed to do in thermal fluids on one sheet of paper, and have done that in certain classes, written out all of thermal fluids on one sheet of paper. Can't do that. One of my areas is machine design and materials, but I wouldn't take it. I would go with the thermal fluids because it is easier for it. And there's no familiarity, no special familiarity. You would have, when you used to be able to take things in, you would take in your probably your thermodynamics book, your fluids book, some steam tables or whatever. Those are now all included in the NCES reference handbook. So this is the one the easiest to prepare for to take the exam. It doesn't matter which exam. Once you become a PE, you're a PE. It doesn't mean you have to only work in thermal fluids. You could do electrical work after you pass the PE in any of the disciplines. The rule is that you just practice in an area that you have competency in, and if you have competency in something, then that's it. All you got to do though is pass this exam, and this is the easiest to do. You may forget all of it an hour after you pass the exam. That'll be okay. Okay, so in summary, if you work in the HVAC industry and you have multiple copies of the ASHRAE manual and you consult them on a very regular basis, you're into them, half a dozen times a day, then yeah, HVAC and refrigeration is it. And we have a lot of folks who choose that and pass, and that's the exam for you. Now, if you work in the machine design daily again, and you're familiar with Shigley's mechanical engineering design or an equivalent, there's several other competitors, but it's probably the number one, and you consult them on a regular basis. You're in them all the time. When I was working in machine design, yes, I had Shigley right there on the desk. I don't know if I had one in my car, but it was permanently open on my desk. Then yeah, machine design might be the best one for you. Otherwise, the thermal and fluid systems is the easiest to prepare for. I want to emphasize that it's not the easiest. It's just it has the least diversion of topics. Okay. Okay. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helps you understand the exam format better, helps you to make the best choice for you. And after you watch it, let us know how this video has helped you. We'd love to hear from you. You'll find lots more videos on our YouTube channel on fundamental mechanical and civil engineering topics. If you'd like to see more videos like this as they become available, of course, subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to hear more from Dr. Tom's Classroom, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. If you're preparing for the PE exam, DTC, Dr. Tom's Classroom, offers mechanical and civil PE exam reviews. You can learn more about those on our website, drtomsclassroom.com. Again, thank you for watching.